Tex-Mex song. It's called Las Nubes, which is the clouds. And growing up as a farm worker, that was always, at every dance, they always played that song.
Welcome to Message Reveal. Message Reveal identifies a vibe, a message, or a story told through lyrics of a song. And you guys, if you rock with me every week, you know what I do and you know how I do it. I tell you about our special guest. But before we get started, let me tell you just a few things about this special guest that I'm super excited to have on. One, he's an American professional cutman. For those that know. Those that don't, you'll definitely find out. Number two, he's an actor and an author. And last but definitely not least, he has worked with kickboxers, boxers, MMA fighters. So you guys, please put your hands together and welcome the legendary, yes, I said legendary, the legendary Mr. Jacob "STITCH Duran. How are you, sir?
Oh, well, look, I might have just got me a new agent, huh? Thanks for having me on.
You are
Thank
welcome. You are welcome. Thank you so much to my guests when they take time out of their Friday to sit with me. I'm so appreciative of it.
Oh, no, of course, I appreciate that. It's when, I always say it's when they don't call you that you ought to be concerned. So, it's barbershop talk for me, and I love doing it.
Oh, well, thank you. So let me just start off with saying this. I know your birthday is on December the 29th. It hasn't made it here yet, so I want to wish you a pre-happy birthday. Is that correct?
Yeah, December 29th. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. So do you have any special plans for your birthday?
No, but usually like the last 10 years, I've done a show in Tokyo, New Year's Day, right? And so normally I kind of take off like the 27th or the 28th. So I've been spending it in Japan, but hopefully this year I'll be able to spend it here at home with my family.
Oh,
So,
that'll be...
yeah, haven't got the call to Japan yet, and I'm in no rush. Monday I go to Saudi Arabia, so it'd be nice to stay home for a little bit.
Oh, wow. Well, this was perfect timing. The gods was looking down on me on this time then. So for those that don't know, let me paint this picture. I'm a native of Las Vegas. For us, boxing, fighting is like the capital of the world. You had the TV artists, the celebrities all came to Vegas because they wanted to sit ringside to see boxing or participate in the pre-fight or whatever, but it was the mysteriousness to it. And I say all of that to say that a lot of times people look at boxing, but they don't know the real glue to the system. And the real glue to the system is the cut man. And the cut man not only take care of, and I'm going to let you explain what a cut man is, but I also found out that the cut man also wrapped the hands. So you guys are so important to the process of the boxing the day of and even before. So can you tell my audience that have no idea what a cut man is, can you break it down for us?
Of course I can. And it's funny because Steve Mazzagatti years ago was a referee, and he said, Stitch, you revolutionized being a cut man. And before, we were the guys behind the scenes that really, we had an important job, but nobody really knew what we did. So in reality, what we do is my job is to take care of the fighter, give them that one more round. And basically, like I tell these guys, I want to make sure you go home as handsome as you walk in. Psychology is a big part of what we do. But once the fighter gets into the dressing room, my job is to wrap his hands. And you wrap his hands in theory so they don't break them. And I've wrapped hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of hands, so I get chosen to wrap hands even if I don't want to. But I always give back, right? And come fight time is I'm like the insurance policy. That's why I tell these guys is, if you're driving a Maserati, you better get good insurance, right? You don't want to get insurance for a Volkswagen or something like that, right? So that's basically what we do is we take care of the fighters, and I have stories with so many of these guys. They'll give me a kiss and say, I love you, and that's a thing of manly because these guys are gladiators. But deep
Yes.
inside, they're all babies, and my job is to take care of the baby.
I love that. I love how you crafted that, where your job is to take care of the baby. But also, I think one of your most critical skills is to stay calm in the midst of chaos and everybody is talking when blood is popping out and it needs to be corrected. So let's just, before we go back into what you do in detail, let's go to the origin story of how you even became a cut man.
Yeah, that itself is a story in itself, right? I grew up as a farm worker. You were born and raised in Las Vegas, and I grew up in a migrant camp in the Central Valley of California. My address is CPC number 12, California Packing Company number 12. So it doesn't get much lower than that. And I tell people if you hate it, fruits or vegetables, I probably picked it for you, right? So that was my lifestyle. I grew up, and then when I was in the second grade, we moved to Planada, which was like 3 miles away. It's a little town, like 1,500 people, all for the most part farm workers. And that's where I grew up. And I went to grammar school there, and baseball was always the thing that I enjoyed playing on Sundays. And, in the summertime when all the farm workers would come from all over Arizona, Mexico, Texas, they would all come to pick the fruits. I'd be playing baseball with these old men. I'm 13, 14, 15 years old, and I know I could hang with them, right? So when I graduated from high school, Lee Grant High, there was 3 towns that put the high school together, and I think there was like 78 that graduated from us, from our class. So not a lot, right? But I walked out to Merced College, which is a JC that was in 9 miles away from Planada. But I would go to school with friends. I didn't have a car. I was that broke, but I had dreams, right? So I would go to school with my friends, and they would leave after school, and I would stay in practice, and then I would have to kind of hitchhike back home. And I didn't know about grants, I didn't know about scholarships, so I joined the military. In 1972, I joined the Air Force. But what was ironic with that is my brother and my father were both in the Navy. So when I wanted to go into the Navy, of course, and so I went to get my physical in Fresno, California, and I flunked it because I jacked up my knee playing baseball, right? And I was so disappointed. But as it goes, the Marine recruiter came and picked me and my buddy Marshall up and took us to Castle Air Force Base. And he was trying to recruit us to go into the Marines, right? And I said, you know what? I want to serve my country, but I don't want to go to Vietnam, right? So he is the one, and to this day, I never got his name, but that was the thing with the Marines. It's not about names. He's the one that said, well, look, let me send you to Oakland. Don't tell them about your knee, and good luck. And I went to Oakland, I passed my physical, and joined the Air Force. So that was in 1972. So I always said if I went to the Orient, I would want to study the martial arts. That was during the Bruce Lee era. Well, lo and behold, they sent me to a place called Thailand, 1974. Shit, I didn't even know what Thailand was. I get there like 4 a.m. and we fly in, and all these Jeeps come up and they're mounted with 60 caliber machine guns on them. And there's guys up in the towers, and we're at the base that had the B-52s. So they would load them with the bombs, go to Vietnam, drop them, and then come back. So our job was to take care of the B-52s and the bombs. But that Monday, I had friends that invited me to downtown Banchan to see some fights. So I'm thinking, I'm Mexican. I'm thinking it's boxing, right? Well, it's Muay Thai, and that's their national sport. And this guy throws a kick and he knocks this guy out. And I said, bing, I'm in.
Oh, it just took that. It just took that.
That's what I wanted to do, right? So on the base, they had Taekwondo. Well, to me, being naive, Taekwondo's it's a Korean sport, but Taekwondo sounds like Thailand. So I studied there. And then the Koreans took off and the Thais transitioned us, and that's how I ended up learning. And then when I got out of the military, I lived in Oakland and I got into boxing just to improve my hands. And here's where the follow your dreams come through, right? So working with RJ Reynolds Tobacco Company, I moved out to the suburbs to Fairfield, and I opened up a school of kickboxing with just my credit card. One of my accounts had minimized their building, and they gave me 3 months of free rent. And as crazy as I was, I was already training fighters, so I was top of the line. And so yeah, I opened up a school of kickboxing and did that for a while. And then my dream was, you're talking about Las Vegas. My dream was to move to Las Vegas because Las Vegas is the boxing capital of the world. And lo and behold, I put in for a job transfer with RJ Reynolds Tobacco Company, and they're downsizing, and we're waiting and waiting, and finally I get a call that, hey, look, there's an opening in Vegas, but you got to be there in a week. Man, I can't be there in a week. I got a family, I got a house, I got my school. I spoke to the manager and I negotiated 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, I transferred my school to a student. I sold my house. I lost money on it. I put my family on a U-Haul. We drove 9 hours to Las Vegas and called my mom, said, Mom, got a new number. And so I came that crazy. And
Wow.
it came out okay. Last time I gambled. Crazy, huh?
Wow, that is for you. You had to just be connected spiritually and say, you know what? No matter what it is, I'm going. And how long have you been in Vegas?
Actually, October was 30 years. But
Wow.
let me add this also. In making the transfer, there was a lower position, and I took it. And it was like $25,000 a year that I lost. But my wife and my family, they supported me, and now, thank God, everything that I do is for them. Everything's for them, because they made the sacrifices with me. I called my mom. Mom, I got a new number. It was that quick, yeah. So then, working with RJ Reynolds, yeah. That's
Wow.
how I made the move.
I love that you acknowledge your family because behind anybody that's successful, men, women, children, is always a group behind, is typically the family. So thank you for acknowledging them and saying, because of their support, you were able to do what you do.
Yeah, well, and we also make sacrifices, but now, you're talking about me in movies and residuals. When I get residuals or I get a big payday for a fight or something like that, I'll share it with my kids. I'll
Oh,
send them money, and here we go. This from me to you. It's not about economics. I grew up poor, and trust me, I'm sure I'll die with nothing, and
mhm.
I'll take nothing with me. Let's put it that way. But everything's from my kids and my family and my wife.
I
So,
love that. I love that. So you did tap in, and you mentioned, as I mentioned at the beginning, about you being in films. So let's talk about Creed, Creed 1, Creed 2, and Creed 3. You were in all three of those, correct?
all three of them, and I've been in 7 movies. And it just,
Wow.
let me tell you, just by the grace of God, and till this day, my proudest moments, I've never asked for one job. I'm always that little proud Chicano that grew up as a farm worker without kissing nobody's butt and all that. And I've just did it on my own, right? And so yeah, that's how everything came to be. Just
Wow.
reaching for the top.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing. So let's just go back and let's talk about you being a cut man. I remember seeing
Well,
a
well,
little,
let's go back to the movies.
yeah,
I was
okay.
going to tell you how everything, just by the faith of God, happened, right? So the day that I was leaving, because RJ Reynolds were downsizing, so they gave me a buyout. So they paid me for the whole year, benefits and everything, as I was working, right? So I figured that's the opportunity for me to make the move into what I want to do full time, and I did. So the day I was leaving, I get a call to do an audition for a movie with Woody Harrelson and Antonio Banderas called Play It to the Bone. And I'm nervous, and I'm like this with my boss because he's working with me. And I think the interview or the interview is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm like this. And about 11 o'clock, I said, Augie, I got to let you know I got an opportunity for an audition for a movie at 3 o'clock. He goes, hey, I'm just here to sign you out. Oh. And I went, I got the interview, and that was my first movie with
Wow.
Woody Harrelson, Antonio Banderas, and then I was Woody Harrelson's cutman in the movie, which is great, right? And I wanted to be with Antonio Banderas because he's Latino, I'm Latino, but Chuck Bodak, the legendary cutman that used to put the tape on him and look like Colonel Sanders, he got in front of me. So he got it because he was the bigger star at that time. The
Mm.
one that got all the accolades because Woody got all cut up. Don't worry, you got the best cut man in boxing. And so that's how it started. And then I did Ocean's 11. And then right here, when we're talking, I get a call to do Balboa when Rocky fights his last fight. And Joe Cortez, the referee, called me. And I said, I can't, man. I said, I got a world title fight in Paris, France with Fabricio Ozo. And then the week later, I got a big show in London. I'm thinking economics, right?
Yes.
And you're talking about your family. Well, I call my wife at work. I said, baby, I got an opportunity, this and that, but I can't go. She goes, are you crazy? You have to do it. Rocky's an American icon, right?
Yes.
And I thought about it. And right here where I'm sitting at, I was negotiating with the people in England. And I hope you guys understand between now and then, I got this offer. And they understood. And it turns out that the fight in Paris, France got canceled. So
Ooh.
follow the advice of your wife
Yeah.
or your partners, right? And yeah, so I did that. And then I was doing a UFC at the MGM. And this one guy says, hey, man, I want to take a picture. And, you take pictures all the time. Yeah, come on, let's do it. No, just you. He goes, what's his name? Kevin James wants you in a movie. Here Comes the Boom. It's an MMA movie, a comedy. And so I got that role. And then same thing with Creed. I get a call, Andre Ward, that I used to work with super world champion. He's the one that when Ryan Coogler used to train, because they're from Oakland, he trained with Andre and Virgil and all that. Andre Ward says, get Stitch as a cutman. And they brought me in as Michael's cutman. And so, I mean, I spent every day with Michael just wrapping his hands, him and I, and treating him like a fighter. And in the second movie, I'm wrapping his hands and I'm telling him, just him and I, like you and I are talking. I said, Michael, I'm just so proud of you, man. Proud of you and Ryan Coogler and Tessa Thompson and Steve Cappell, that was a director for Creed 2. And he says, Stitch, he's looking at me like I'm looking at you. He goes, we went from being actors to writers, producers, and directors. He says, I'm directing Creed 3, and you're with me as long as you want.
Wow.
And it just gave me chills again.
Yes. What a blessing.
Oh, it's a blessing. But, like I told him and Ryan, I said, look, if I see something that's not right, I'm going to bring it up to your attention because you're representing my sport. Coogler said, Stitch, please, let it be back. So a lot of the authenticity is I had to make sure that it was done right. And, something as simple as in the second movie with Drago, I walk in for my first day and Drago knocks this guy out and they're using all these extras, right? So this guy gets the fighter's head, he's on the canvas and he picks his head up and he put the flashlight. And I tell the director, no, you can't do that because you don't know what kind of brain damage he has. So they reshot that scene. Something as simple as that.
But at least here's my thing, talking about being authentic. We want to give the real representation because I remember in a movie prior, the guy said, cut the eye. Mick cut the eye. And you talked about how that was more myth than actual real, because if you cut the eye is, from my understanding, is already swelled with blood. Now you have two problems, correct?
Yeah, that was Sylvester Stallone. And I told Sly, I said, you know how many times I had to dispel that myth of cut me Mick? I said, because it's true. When you got a swollen eye, you have all this accumulation of blood. Number one, and there's three out. Number one, you're not a surgeon. So you're doing an operation in a dirty atmosphere, in a ring, filthy, right? Number two, the blood's gonna get in his eye. It's gonna create damage. And then when a referee stops a fight, it's because the fighter is at a disadvantage and not having, that's a disadvantage. So that was a big myth to that.
Yes. So before we get to music, because I want to ask you some questions for music, I still want to talk about the cutman process. I remember you saying somewhere, I don't know if it's from your documentary, which we will talk about that, but you asked someone if they can teach you how to be a cutman and they refuse to give you that inside information. So if you just take it from there and tell us how you learn this process of becoming a cutman, because from my understanding, it's not one technique to it. It's over time, you learn to use what works best for you. Am I correct with that information?
Yeah, there's certain items you could use, but those items, you have to know when and how to use them, and yeah, so I had my school of kickboxing, and I'd never forget in Richmond, California, Marvis Frazier, the son of Joe Frazier, fought Bone Crusher Smith, big heavyweight fight, right? So I go there and I'm watching, and this guy did a good job in one of the earlier fights. So I go up to him. I said, "Hey, man, I'm trying to learn to be a cut man. Can you tell me what you did?" He says, "Oh, F you." He goes, "I'm taking this to my grave, and you got to walk. You got to learn like me." He walked away. Hey, I felt about this big, man. I'm telling you. And I said, "I'm never going to be like this guy. I'm going to use him, turn that negative into a positive." And
Yes.
I go back home, and I've done this interview. To this day, there's only one person that knows his name that I've mentioned, and that's it. The name's not important. But
No, it's not.
now I go back to Oakland with Andre Ward. He's the undisputed champ, and my credibility's gone up, and he forgot about it. But now him and his son want to take a picture with me. So I put my arms around him, and I'm thinking, yes, I won this battle. Thank you. So my job at the end of the day is to teach these guys how to take care of the fighters. Something this guy never did. But that was the old school mentality, and hopefully I helped change this game.
Yes. So let's talk about when the fighters have cuts and gash. How do you strategically, within a small amount of time, either stop it or do something to correct it until it's over and you can have someone at a higher level take care of it? What's some of the techniques that you use, if you can share?
Sure, yeah. There's no secrets to this, right? It's all technique, right? But what I do is, because I work with so many new fighters, but I'll sit down with the coaches, and we'll get our job accountability. What's your job? What's your job? Here's my job. So I always tell them I work on the right side. I work on the outside of the ring. But if something happens where the fighter gets cut, let's say I'm working on this side of the ring, he gets cut on this side. The head trainer and me will switch, so I have primary position on the fighter. So, my whole focus throughout the whole fight, from the start of the bout to the end, is right here, his whole face. And I prepare for the worst case scenario, whether it's a cut, whether it's swelling, but I do a lot of preventing maintenance. And, like Tyson Fury, when I worked with him, I told him, I'll keep eyes on you every round. Make sure that you walk out, you walk in. At the end of the fight, he kissed me and says, "Stitch, thanks for keeping eyes on me." Something simple like that. So the mental game, right?
Yes.
But know what the medications are. The primary medication that we use is the adrenaline chloride 1000. That's my prescription only, right? But that's a vessel constrictor. And I teach these young fighters, I'll say, look, if you're looking for a cut, man, ask him what the adrenaline does. And if the guy tells you it's a coagulant, get another cut, man, because it's not a coagulant, it's a vessel constrictor. So when you see me working on a cut, the first thing I'll do is I'll squeeze it. And how many times, and you get the blood out of the little vessels. Then I'll put the swab in there that has the adrenaline. It absorbs into the vessels and it closes them up. That's the whole theory behind that application. A coagulant is a lot different because it coagulates the blood, but once you hit it, it takes that clot with it and it continues to bleed. So, yeah, but that's what I do, and it's the confidence level.
Yeah.
And I had one fighter that got knocked out, and he's arguing with the referee and the doctor. No, I'm okay. I'm okay. I come up to him. I said, look, you got knocked out. He looks. He goes, Stitch, I believe.
Oh, so he didn't want to listen to nobody else until you came along.
Until I came in, I said, look, you got knocked out. Stitch, I believe.
Well, that shows the respect that they have for you over time, and they really respect what you have to say. So that's a blessing.
Yeah, 100%. Let me give you another one. Vladimir Klitschko was the heavyweight champ of the year for 8 years from the Ukraine, right? And I worked with him that's when I did Ocean's 11. I was his cut man in the movie when he fought Lennox Lewis when they robbed the casino. But on my first fight with him, he had just lost the world title. This was his first coming back fight. And Emmanuel Stewart wanted me to work with him. But he gets that big vein that we have coming down when you laugh. You see people with big vein. Well, he took a shot, headbutt, and popped that vein. And that's extremely hard to stop because there's so much blood flow that when you put the adrenaline, it won't absorb into the veins. So looking at the fight, I always look at it as a judge. Who's winning the fight? Who's winning the rounds? And at that point, I whispered to him and his brother Vitaly. Vitaly now is the mayor of Kiev. But I said, look, you got a back cut. You're winning the fight. I'm going to have the doctor stop the fight. And Emmanuel Stewart's on the other side, and he didn't hear it. So when the doctor came in, she goes, well, what do you think, Stitch? And she knew because I worked all these fights before. I opened it up. I said, yeah, it's pretty bad. She stopped the fight. It went to the scorecards, and Vladimir won the fight and became the heavyweight champ of the world for 8 years. And, yeah,
Wow.
that's taking advantage of the opportunities. And DeVero Williamson, the great guy, he's the one that lost. And he says, man, you changed my whole life. Could have been what would have been what should have been, right? And
Yes.
but that was my job.
Wow.
So and ending with Vladimir, my last fight with him when he lost his world title to Anthony Joshua is at Wembley Stadium with 90,000 people. So my daughter Carla had got married in Crete Wednesday. So Thursday I flew to London, and I didn't see him and his brother till the weigh-ins Friday. But finally I tell at the end with Vladimir, I talked to him and I said, look, put my hand on his shoulder and said, look, don't worry about nothing tomorrow. I'm gonna treat you like you're my son. And I mean, right? I'm putting the final Vaseline on him before Michael Buffer does the announcements, and we're like this far apart. He says, you could call me son. Oh, I knew I got into it hard.
Oh.
So
And that's not typical for them to say things like that.
no, these guys are gladiators, man. I tell you, so many times I've gotten the I love you stitch, and that's because they know, I have
Yes.
to take care of them. I've had parents, wives, come and say, thanks, take care of my son. Thanks for taking care of my husband. Thanks, So yeah, they understand.
That's definitely a blessing. I love how you gave some background just so people can understand that you have been loyal to this sport, to the process of being a cut man. It's not nothing that just happened overnight. And I think for so many people, they see things and they think it happened overnight. And of course, it has not. And you've been in the game for a while. With that being said, let's turn the tables and let's talk about music, which is my absolutely favorite thing. I feel like music has turned me all the way out in a great way.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
So let's talk about a song that really resonates with you, whether it's provided some blessings, distractions, or it's just giving you perceptions or a different way of looking in life. Can you identify a song?
Yeah, well, I thought about, that, and yes, actually, it's a Tex-Mex song. It's called Las Nubes, which is the clouds. And growing up as a farmer, because I was always, at every dance, they always played that song. That's everything. But I never really understood the meaning of it, right? Until this documentary that they're doing on my life. The guy that sang it the group is Little Joey La Familia. And they created Las Nubes. And interviewing Little Joe for this documentary, he mentioned how he was in the fight with Cesar Chavez for the rebellion, well, not rebellion, for the support of the farm workers.
Mm-hmm.
That song Las Nubes was written to support the farm workers. Well, that is the song that we are using as the official song in the documentary. And Little Joe is explaining why he wrote it. So I mean, I got chills again. So that song, Las Nubes, I could hear it all the time, and it just inspires me, So that's the song that really kind of changed my life. Well, it didn't change it. Every time Las Nubes came out, we went out dancing.
But look how over time the meaning and the connection, you soon found out that he worked with Cesar Chavez. So now at this point in your life, it has a greater meaning, correct?
Well, 100% right, because here's what I went to Tucson 3 weeks ago. He's 85. He had his 85th birthday.
Wow.
In Tucson. He performed there. So Charlotte, my wife, and I went up there, my sister and her husband, and we're talking to him, and I'm showing him the clip. He did an interview for some station in Dallas where he's talking about why he wrote the song and why he was involved with Cesar Chavez. I got that clip, and they're going to insert that into, because there's a part when I go back home to Granada, my little hometown, where there's a mural of Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta. They both fought for the rights of farm workers. Well, we're going to incorporate Little Joe. So I say, the ones that I followed were, Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta. Now they're going to add and Little Joe. And then Little Joe will pop up and he'll explain how he teamed up with Chavez and then why he wrote the song. So it completes that package right there. So,
Yes.
yeah,
That's
powerful, powerful.
yes. Full circle, full circle.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Now, let's talk a little bit. You hinted, let's talk about the documentary. How did that even, what was the catalyst for you to say, yes, I'll do it? Tell me a little bit about the documentary. I saw a little bit of a clip at the event we were at back in August. I thought it was great. Can you just tell us about it and tell us when it'll be released to everyone? Because you've just been doing private, correct?
Yes, yes. At this point, yeah. Actually, uh, Sean showed it, and I got my ass chewed out, by the producers because they wanted everybody hadn't signed off yet, right? But
Oh, okay.
that's no problem. That went well. But yeah, so right now we're in the finishing touches. We're going. They've submitted it to Sundance, so we'll be in Sundance at the end of January in Utah. I think Tribeca and all that. So I guess the way the system works is they go to these film festivals, and then that's people will look at it and make offers. I got Michael B. Jordan in it. They offered to present it to Amazon to Prime, which is their distributor. So we're looking at all kinds of different angles. So yeah, I'm proud to have said that it's going to be out there. It's called From the Fields to the Garden. But what happened is I'm the kind of like you called for an interview, let's do it. I'm the kind of guy, if you call, let's do it. So years ago, I got a call from a guy named Zach Robinson out of Germany that's a teacher for the military kids. And he said, look, that's when I was with the UFC. I'm a big fan of yours. And I write books called Sports by the Numbers. And would you be interested in having a book written on your life? I said, yeah, let's do it. Well, just by the grace of God, I was going to be in Germany 3 weeks later working with Vitaly Klitschko. So we met, and just like this, we shook hands. We're in the restaurant in the breakfast area in the hotel. We shook hands, and he wrote a book called From the Fields to the Garden, and it became a top seller. And so that's the way life happened, right? And then so I had two other people that had talked about documentaries. They went to Germany with me, and they never completed it. I'm the kind of guy, let's do it. Well, these guys here, they finished it up, and but that's how it happened. Things just happened for me when at the right time, at the right place, and I mean, it's phenomenal. So, just crazy.
I feel like you're blessed. You're blessed and you just glide through those blessings as you tell the story about you were originally going to take the job and your wife tells you no and how you packed up. You are really, really blessed on so many levels. And I feel like you just say, okay, this is what it is. You don't think twice and you go with it. And it seemed to be your lucky foot, so to speak.
Yeah, I've always told myself, the one can't kick my butt. That I know. But number two is I could always go back and I know how to pick tomatoes. I know how to pick cotton. I know how to pick people. Right? That's always been my mental game is that, when you start from the bottom, the only way to go is up,
Yes.
And I've never been scared to challenge things, but I do. I always think of my mother. My mother always says, when you give, you get it back 10 times.
Yes.
And for me, it's never been economics. It's been about accomplishments, about saying that I did it. And that's it. It's never been about money. I told you, I want to die broke. I want my kids to live happily ever after. And it's not about economics for me. It's about accomplishment. And
I love
I went
that.
back home. So let me tell you with this documentary, about 2 months ago, with everything that's happening with ICE and farm workers and all that, it's horrible. Those are my.
Yes.
So I talked to the producers about before they finished it, let me get the film, let me go back home to where I grew up with and invite the ones I grew up with in the migrant camp and the ones that we grew up in school together. And we had a private screening and they all cried because my story was their story. But what was phenomenal is the hotel to the theater is a 7-minute walk on Main Street. So we all gathered at the hotel. It's like 150 of us. I had mariachi there, the music they're playing. Woo! And when it was time to go see the movie, we all made the walk to the theater with the mariachi playing down Main Street, 7 minutes. I support of Cesar Chavez and the farm workers. So my whole thing has always been supporting the farm workers.
I love that. I love that. And it was saying we're here without saying it, just by walking, just by playing the music, just by celebrating your culture at a large level. And for the people that you were able to gather to say, your story is my story, probably meant so much to them that you came back to talk to them and to share and to really get insight of what you guys went through together, right?
100%. Until this day, on my outfits, on my collar, I have Planada. That's the name of my little town. Right? Give me a second. Hold on. I'll show you one of them. So this is Planada. This is the name of my little town, right? And when it comes to sales and marketing, that's prime location, because as I'm working on the fighter, the cameras are right behind me, and that's so I give it to them. But it's not for the world to know what Granada is. For the people of Granada to know that I'm thinking about them.
Yes.
And that's quite inspirational for all of us.
Yeah.
And then also, hold on now. Oh, sure.
Okay.
I forgot to mention, I even had the United Farm Worker patch on my shoulder.
Nice.
When he fought Jake Paul, yeah. So, you always have to give back and never forget where you come from.
Yes. I love that you didn't forget, because we know it's so many people that have forgot. And when you forget, you don't get a chance to represent the people that still needs that little spark of inspiration to say, you know what, somebody got out, somebody made a difference. So I'm gonna give you a clap for you represent proudly. You like, let me go get my jacket to show you. I love it.
Of course, I'm extremely proud of that. Yeah.
I love it. So let's talk about you. I know you said you grew up in the camp there. How did your parents, did they migrate from Mexico to California? How did that come about that they came into the United States, if that's correct? And with that being said, can you think of a song as a child that you would hear or you purchased when you were a child that really resonates with you right now?
No, well, my mother was she was born in Belen, New Mexico, so she was American, right? But she was just born there, but she lived in Mexico, in the state of Chihuahua. My dad lived in the state of Guanajuato, and they met in El Paso, and then from there they migrated to California, and that's how we got started with that. So yeah, props for that. But yeah, going about songs growing up, everything that we listened to were all Mexican music. I mean, it just never, nothing that really outside of that really inspired us, because we were basically in the Mexican community. So there was really no song outside of, like, say, Las Nubes, as you go back into memories and say what songs made a difference. But growing up, even as a young teenager, Sly and the Family Stone was my favorite group.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Sly and the Family Stone. They were my group.
Wow. What made them be attracted to you? Why did you like them so much? Is it the bass, the funk, and what was it?
Why can't we be friends? Yep. So that was it. But I just loved their style.
Yes.
Being Bay Area, I was Bay Area, and that was it. But yeah, growing up small, I mean, we grew up poor. So we had stereos or anything in our house. None of that existed.
Wow. So do you think growing up the way you've grown up has shaped your perspective of life right now?
100%. Everything I do that's in my mentality. And yeah, that's shaped my whole life from get-go.
So I do have one question regarding you being a author.
Well, real quick, let me show you this one picture.
Okay.
When my died, she had this picture in her drawer. None of us knew that it existed. Let me see if I can show you. But if you look this way, I'm 15 years. That's me with a white beanie. My little brother, my mom were what they call the cuttings. And those are the grapes where you cut them in sticks about like this, and you put them in bundles of 200. That was a picture that inspired me, because yeah, you can see it's me, and my little brother's like this. He knows nothing about pain, but that just shows the way we were.
Yes.
Hard workers, and we took everything in stride, and it was a family operation. So,
Yes.
yeah,
And not only that, typically when you are in that position, you have a lot of love, and the love is what gets you to the next day, the next month, the next year.
yeah, yeah, 100%. It was we're all family. There was 8 of us.
Wow.
Yeah,
So where did you fall within the 8?
I was number 5.
Okay.
I got
Okay.
my little sister and my little brother. We're all adults now, and yeah, so I was number 5.
So may I ask this, is your mother still with us, or she's has
Yeah,
passed on?
they're all passed. Yeah, yeah. My
So
father passed, when he was in his late 60s, and my mom in her late 90s, and
hmm.
so
So would you be so kind on this platform, if we talk about anyone that has passed on, we ask that you say their full name to honor your mom and your dad?
sure. Yeah, my dad was Benjamin Tamayo Duran, and my mom is Maria Inés Arias Duran. Yeah,
Wonderful, wonderful.
they're, based, from nothing, we did everything. We had everything.
Yes.
That's, when you have nothing, you don't know.
You don't know no
I
better.
remember, yeah, I remember coconut cakes. We used to get coconut cakes at the Mexican store, right? And you figure you divide that amongst 10 people.
Wow.
Well, actually 11, because my uncle, they snuck my uncle over from Mexico. And, yeah, so there was a whole bunch of us.
Wow. But you learned from that time to elevate, but don't forget.
That's the whole inspiration, exactly. And to give back. And to, I always tell people, when I moved to Vegas, I said, look, I'm going to the top. I'm taking the bus. You guys want to get on the bus? Let's go, man, because I'm going further without you, bro. But the doors are open, right? And I have. I've brought people with me. I've helped them out, and I've as much as I can, because that's what it's about giving
Yeah.
back, giving back.
Yes. Well, one thing I want to ask you before we get out of here, I think it's just been wonderful. I'm so excited that you said yes to me so we can get this background on who you are and the cut man. But before we do that, are you familiar with any cut women?
Yeah, yeah. There's some in there. In fact, I've helped a couple. And
Really?
yeah. There's a couple that I've helped. Uh, they're not as prominent as guys because they're women, right? But
Hmm.
and I get messages all the time from people who want to be a cutman, and what do they do? And I tell them, you got to spend hours and days and weeks and months and years in the gym, being a fighter, giving back to the fighters, wrapping hands. You got to do it at your own expense, and consider that a business card. If I wrap your hands, if you like it, then you're going to bring me on, right? So you got to prove yourself through experience. I get doctors, I get paramedics, I get EMTs that want to do what I do, and because you're good at that, don't mean you're good at what I do. 'Cause you only
Mm.
got, for the most part, 50 seconds to do what we do. But you have to
Ooh.
understand the mental game, of the game. You have to understand the hurt, pain, and yeah, you just can't walk into it.
So, what do you think would be the top 3 essential needed skills in order to be a cut man or a cut woman?
Composure is number one. I think you brought that up earlier in your interview, but composure is number one. Having the proper tools, and knowing the medications that
Mm.
you do. But whenever let's say I work with you for the first time, I always ask, how do your hands feel? Any issues you want me to address? The face. If you get cut, don't worry about it. My job to take care of you. So I put that I'll go into a little intro, and let them know it. You educate them. You guys are gladiators, but deep inside, I tell you, they're all babies. You know. So yeah, but there's a girl in San Francisco that does a good job. Yeah, so there's some in the East Coast. There's 4 or 5 of them. So not a lot, but you know.
Well, I had to, being a woman, and I represent being a woman very well. I had to ask that question
Sure.
because sometimes we have women that can do the same job, but again, like you said, it doesn't get a lot of recognition. So I had to find out. And I'm happy to hear out of your mouth that you said you supported and helped. So you're doing the opposite of what that individual said. No, I'll take it to my grave. You did the opposite of it. And that's why you are Jacob Stitch Duran.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I did. I have to be different than him, and in fact, I just put a video out because I do seminars. I've done seminars in Mexico and Europe and Greece and all that, but my traveling, I can't do it all the time. So I put a video together that shows my whole seminar, and it's only $50, but it's not to make money. It's for these guys to get it and understand the basic foundation. That money that I get that comes in, I share it with my son that was one of the models, and my son-in-law that does my social media. That he does.
Oh,
The money goes to them. I get nothing of it. It's just, I make it available to people who could look at it so that they can learn, so that they can take care of the fighters.
I love it. It seems as if you're continuously evolving, but you're continuously giving back. And because of this revolving circle, you continue to be blessed. And I would say to you, stay on that road because it is working for your highest good.
Oh yeah, no, I guess Spanish nos andamos calentando. We're just warming up. There's a outside of the documentary, there's a film I put together like 25 years ago. I'll kind of let you know. It's called Boxer's Nightmare. And what happened is I did an interview, and then it was only paper, magazines and newspapers.
Yes.
I did an interview of how I wanted to teach, show how to wrap hands and all that. Well, this young kid, John Barnhouse, had just graduated from the American Film Institute. He called me. He said, "Hey, man, I read your article. I'd be glad to help you any way I can just to learn." So anyway, we ended up getting so many interviews, and with no platform whatsoever. I knew this much about film. He was as green as could be, but we got so many interviews that we put a film together called Boxer's Nightmare, and it deals with all the stuff that fighters go through. So I presented to Don King and to Bob Durham and to Showtime, the wrong people. They didn't want to see it, right? So I never did nothing with it. I put it in the shelf. And John passed away about year and a half ago, and I haven't seen this film in over 20 years.
Mm.
And I looked at it and I'm thinking, wow, man, this is literally the Bible of boxing. I have Mike Tyson before. Everybody I have there are all legends. Half of them are dead, but they're all legends, and they all came forward and gave me everything that I needed to make Boxer's Nightmare. I got Mike Tyson before he got his tattoos.
Wow.
Fernando Vargas. I got Eddie Mustafa Muhammad for the fighters. I got Mills Lane, Joe Cortez, Richard Steele, referees. I got Emmanuel Stewart. I got all these guys. So I looked at it and I'm thinking, I've always been fighting for the rights of fighters, for the rights of people from get-go.
Yes.
From the farm worker to this, not knowing. So now that my credibility has gone up a lot, now I'm still fighting for the rights of the fighters. I'm going to reshoot this once I finish From the Fields to the Garden and get current interviews with MMA fighters, because what's happening to boxing then is still happening now. Nothing's been done, and now it affects all combat sports. So I'm going to get new interviews. I'm going to remodel it, but I'm going to keep the interviews from the ones that I had because they're priceless. I mean, Mike Tyson, I asked Mike, I said, Mike, every fighter has that one little thing that nobody has. What's that one little thing? He says, well, you got to get yourself and your body in 100% physical condition, because your mind tells your body what to do. But here's the one that I tell the young fighters. Mike says, take the pain. You got to take the pain. And as I left, I thought, you know what? He's so right, because you take a pain in training, you take a pain in fights, you take a pain financially, you take a pain with your family, and hopefully you don't take pain dementia pugilistica down the road. So yeah, I'm in a lot of strong points. So that's my project that I'm going to do once I finish with From the Fields to the Garden.
I look forward to tapping into that, and I will definitely, when the time comes, if you like to come back on and talk about that and get some promotion regarding that. Now, one last thing I do want to tap into regarding music is this season for me is my third season, and it's about knowing yourself, really tapping into yourself. Can you identify a song or just tell me a story that you can express or dedicate to the world about identifying who you are? Because I always say on my platform, if you don't know who you are, if you don't love who you are, you can't do anything else for anybody, regardless. So, can you give us some inside perspective that you can share with us all about loving who you are, self assurance?
Yeah, one song that has always popped up is from Chicago's "Color My World." And I always look at things on the bright side, right? And for you to come up and give me that positive energy is the way that I'm going to give it back to you and give it back to other people. So, and it was funny because I did a seminar in a reservation in Minnesota, and this young girl comes up to me and she plays the flute. And I said, well, look, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go get this song, Color My World by Chicago, because it's a long version of the flute. And if you master that, then you can do anything in life that you want. So that's how I don't know what happened after that, but I know that I left it with that in my mind. But Color My World has always been a very strong thing for me is make it beautiful.
Yes, I love that. Before we get out of here, I must share with you a perspective that manifested instantly. So the week before the fight back in September, I'm a big PBS watcher, and I was on watching you, and I can't think of the other guy. You guys were talking about what you do in the bill that's currently about fighters.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yes, yes. And I said to myself, I would love to have the opportunity to interview him and find out more about the cut game, right? Nothing went on about my business. A week or two later, I was invited to the place where you and I met. And I happened to walk in, and someone saw me from upstairs say, hey, come upstairs. And I look over and I was like, now you hadn't been called yet. And I said, wait a minute. I think that's Mr. Jacob Stitch Duran. So I look over, and sure enough, it was you. And I went over, and your energy was just down to earth. And I said, hey, I introduced myself, and I said, I would love for you to come on. You said, here's my card, get in touch. And I love the innocence and just the realness of who you are. So thank you. You were able to manifest something that I instantly didn't realize that can come that fast. So thank you.
Yeah, well, there's a story to everything, right? So before we go, I'll give you this story. So when I had my school of kickboxing, I worked with Dennis Alexa, who was champion of the world. And we fought here in Las Vegas at the Thomas and Mack kickboxing, right? And after the fight, they have the after fight parties and all that. Well, Randall Cunningham was the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles at that time. He was already a big star, right? We're talking, me and my three brothers are talking to him. And we're nobody. I'm nobody. I'm still Jacob, right? I'm not even Stitch. And this guy comes up to Randall and says, Randall, come here, man. Let me go introduce you to these guys. He goes, hold on. He goes, let me finish talking to these guys. I never felt so important in my life, and I mean, it just gives me chills right now. And I looked at that and I said, you know what? I'm going to be like this, man. So he's a pastor here in town.
Yes.
And my brother said, and I've done this story hundreds of times and mentioned him how that little moment just kind of reinforced that this is how you want to treat people. The little things in life is don't forget them, and same with you. You asked for my card. Here's my card. Whatever comes out of it, comes out of it, right?
Yes.
But yeah, my brother said, you got to go to his church and tell him. I said, no. I'm going to run into him organically one of these days and say, look, I just want to let you know that you just reinforced that this is the way you want to treat people. The little things that are not important to you are big things that are important to these people.
Yeah.
And that's how I want to live my life. And it's never been about economics. It's a business, but I understand. But
yeah. Well, I'm just going to say you're spiritually tapped in, because your wealth, number one, is your health, your spirituality, and how you view life. And it seems like you're tapped into all three. And because of that, that's why you're able to get the physical money. So I bless you many times, one, for being so kind to me. And I'm glad you told that story. Hopefully he sees this and he go, oh, okay, the next time I see Mr. Jacob Stitch Duran, I can tell him thank you, or, just acknowledge what you said about him. So before we get out of here, if someone wants to get in touch with you, is there some kind of social media you would like to share with people so they can tap in and keep in touch with what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm at Stitch Duran, and I always return my messages. It just, to me, communications is number one, and like I say, those little things in life make a big difference.
Yes.
And I understand, that I put myself in a platform where I have to give back and respect people for the requests that they give you.
Yes.
And little moments like that make a big difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, before we get out of here, I always talk about the journey and the destination. The journey is where we learn and where we grow. The destination is where we celebrate. If we don't celebrate, we don't really get to understand the work, the things that we've done. We must celebrate, but we can't stay and celebrate too long. We have to get back into that journey again so we can continue to learn and grow and elevate. I say all of that to say, when I have my women on, I bow to them, but when I have my men, I salute. So I salute you, sir, and I thank you, and I give my last words to my guests. Any last word?
No, I think you did a great job. Appreciate it. It's it's called Barbershop Talk, and it's important for people to understand what goes on in a person's life. It's not always guns and roses, right? And the steps that one takes to get where they want to get. It's not an easy step. And one of the things, and I'm sure you've been through it also, in definition as I go, here's how I explain it, is that one line we're all scared to cross. If you don't cross it, you'll never get there.
Woo! Now that is the absolute truth. If you're scared to cross, you'll never know what's on the other side. Yes. Yep. Yes. Well, you know what? That's the great way to segue out. I want my audience to please put their hands together for the legendary Mr. Jacob Stitch Duran.
Thank you.
And as I say to all my guests, I'll see you out here in these Las Vegas streets.
I'll be there. Will you?
For sure. Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you for having me on.